Look us go down the shot.
I love it. Hold on, we're not in focus.
Oh, no.
I think we are now. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. Guess what?
Let's go down the hole.
We saw a thing.
We saw Captain Marvel. But you knew that.
It was Captain Marvelicious. Marvelous.
See, when I was little, at Baskin Robbins, you could get the Marvel ice cream cake. But it wasn't like Marvel, like the company. It was like Marvel. And I just keep thinking that every time somebody's like, but Marvel! And I'm like, oh, because there was Fudgy the Whale was the mascot of the ice cream cakes. He was a whale. He was chocolate.
Okay.
Fudgy the Whale. Google
Why would
it.
you get a chocolate...
Ice cream cakes used to be a thing back in the day.
Why would I have a chocolate cake called fudge?
Fudgy was his name.
Yeah, it seems confusing.
No, because the way an ice cream cake works is you have... Like, sometimes you have, like, just the regular cake layer, and it could be, like, chocolate vanilla or, like, whatever, like, you know, cake layer, and then ice cream layers, and then frosting over it like it's a cake, but it's an ice cream cake. This used to be a real thing. I don't know if it still is. I don't know if ice cream cakes are still popular. I'm very tired. It's been, like, a 20-hour day.
So let's do this one fairly short and sweet, because Omega needs to crash.
Yeah, so speaking of ice cream, our cinema has a Ben & Jerry's stand, so there.
Yeah, I got a Ben & Jerry's ice cream sundae.
I didn't because I'm trying to lose 2 stone in 2 months. But I did have a shit ton of popcorn, so.
But, yeah.
So the spoiler-free version first, because...
Yeah.
So don't wet yourselves. It was good. It was really good. It was very solid. Everybody did a really great job acting.
It's Marvel. It's good.
Yeah. Samuel L. Jackson in particular seemed to be just really enjoying himself. Like, I know that everyone's been really, really down on the Ghostbusters reboot, but Chris Hemsworth in the Ghostbusters reboot was basically, like, you know, just looked like he was having the fucking time of his life.
I saw someone did a fan theory that if the Ghostbusters reboot, it makes much more sense if you imagine that Chris Hemsworth character was Thor trying to learn to, you know, to infiltrate infiltrate
like those shorts where he had a roommate in Australia?
Yeah, it's his attempt to sort of pass as a normal person.
But Samuel L. Jackson, he just, like, he wasn't chewing the scenery, but he was loving it. He was in the zone.
He was much sillier Nick Fury.
Yes, it was fantastic, and the CGI on him was great.
Yeah, the less so on Greg Clark, who plays Agent Coulson. I don't know why it was, but it was seamless on Samuel Jackson.
Yeah, he did kind of look like the what's the model of Terminator that comes back and it chases your man? Arnold Schwarzenegger.
T-1000.
Yeah, like that's what he reminded me of. Just the way it's been.
There is one shot of Coulson where he's looking to the side and his eyebrows look like they were penciled on. It is hilarious. But yeah, Marvel films always good. It's like it is frightening how consistently good these guys are. 19 films and still no flat out bad ones.
It's like I always say, it was beautiful, but what isn't these days, you know?
Yeah, the
I had another critical face fail, and this one guy's like, "Who's that? He looks familiar. That's Jude Law, right? Yes. Requiem for a Dream. Yes."
He wasn't in that.
Who was in that? The other one.
The Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, Jake Gyllenhaal wasn't in Requiem.
No, Jared Leto.
Yeah, I always get those two confused.
I'm sure that's really offensive for Jude Law.
Well, they just have the same kind of, like, look in their eyes. I don't know. But, but Jude Law is probably pretty...
But, personally, I was going into this with slightly lowered expectations. Not, like, I wasn't expecting an Iron Man 2. No. I looked at the actual reviews, not the, piss baby splat pants as he were crying about it. I looked at the actual reviews. What did Movie Bob
say? Because we all know he's always...
And so I looked at the actual reviews, and the actual reviews seemed to be a little less glowing than usual. And the trailers were a little underwhelming compared to most Marvel films. So I was expecting something as good as Ant-Man, not Iron Man 2, not Incredible Hulk, which is the very low end of Marvel. But I definitely wasn't expecting anything as strong as it turned out to be.
Well, it wasn't setting out to be funny. It wasn't like Thor Ragnarok or Guardians of the Galaxy. In that, it's a laugh a minute, everything is played for laughs. But it was lighthearted, if that makes sense. Like they didn't take away from the really drastic moments of it, But it did feel like it was not going for comedy, but it was not...
It came off as funnier than it should have been because of the nostalgia bits, because it was all the 90s stuff.
Oh my god, there's one part... This is not a spoiler, but I need to tell you that there's a scroll. He's drinking an Orange Julius. And I was like, Orange Julius! And she was like...
I think it sounds like a cocktail.
Well, it was. It was a drink that it's... I mean, that was the first thing we ever learned how to make in home ec. Yeah, I had to take home ec when I was in school. But it's a drink, and it's got, like, ice cream and milk and orange juice. And milk and orange juice together, you would think, no, you would think it couldn't be. How could this be? But it's good. I don't know how. It's magic. But it was a chain, and they usually see like little kiosks in malls. You go and get an Orange Julius, and they went out of business. Oh, geez, I don't even know. Maybe early aughts, late 90s. But it was just every mall had an Orange Julius. And there was a part where Captain Marvel has just landed on Earth, and she says to, in the strip mall with Blockbuster, which is fantastic, and she says to the security guard, I need to find communications equipment. He goes, oh, over there. And it's a Radio Shack, and I was like, buffaw! And the whole entire audience in Northern Ireland was silent. Only I got it.
Because Radio Shack didn't exist over here as a product. So, like,
She had to ask about it. I said, tweet it, Nash, and I tweeted it, Nash.
Like I said before we went into the film, saying that you're going to find this more nostalgic than me. Because, to me, to us in Northern Ireland, this is another American film set in the early 90s, because the early 90s were slightly different in America than Northern Ireland. So all these, like, Blockbuster and Radio Shack and stuff, that's not stuff we had over here.
Yeah, I know.
So it's just like, it's no different from a movie made in that time.
Someone's using, like, Netscape. I liked that. And I Googled something on Alta Vista. Did you even hear me? I said they Googled something on Alta Vista. I used to use Alta Vista and SGs.
Should have been InfoSeek.
Shut up.
But
nobody had frosted tips. We were just talking about this in the car on the way back. I was looking for frosted tips, and I was looking for those big, huge button-down shirts with the flames on them. You know, that everyone had. I had 3 that I got at Hot Topic in various colors. And, like, the ones that were, like, imitation silk and black with, like, red dragons. Yeah, I had that.
At the very start of it, they have the long Marvel intro, but all the characters are Stan Lee's from different films.
Yeah,
that was beautiful.
That was very appropriate, I thought.
It was so nice.
His cameo was really great, too.
Yeah. He was reading the script from Mallrats, trying to get his lines down. It's like, oh, Kevin Smith. Oh, I must see Kevin Smith's review of this. Because he does a film review, like a vlog.
Do you think he might cry?
He's going to be like...
Right? He'll cry.
He's like, he exists in the MCU. He will be so happy.
I don't know how I feel about Kevin Smith, because one time I included some, like, public domain sounds and stuff and music in a video of mine, and I got a DCM, whatever, takedown from his channel, because they'd used it also, and I tweeted, I'm like, why are you doing this? And he replied, because I'm an asshole. And I was like, no.
Oh.
So I think it was a bot. I don't think it was a manual thing, so I contested it, and I won, because it was public domain stuff, but I was like, oh no, is Kevin Smith an asshole? Well, this is many years ago, so...
And it might not have been him running the Twitter account.
That's true, it might not.
Well, that's a bit
but
unfortunate.
Maybe he'll cry. But, no, it was really good. The script was good. Everybody who acted in it was good.
It was really nice to see Korath and... spoilers. Korath and Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy turning up, whose spoilers survive because they're in Guardians of the Galaxy. I was kind of expecting for someone in the MCU to turn up in this and be shockingly killed off and then be replaced by a benevolent Skrull who assumes their identity. I don't know who it would be. You know, theoretically it could have been Fury for all I knew. Like, if they just imagine the shock if they'd killed Fury off partway through and Talos took over his identity.
Or, like, for some reason, like...
Talos being Ben Mendelsohn's character.
Like, Coulson went to space with the Skrull for some reason, and then a Skrull took over, so that way it was the Skrull that died. We
would have known about that, though, because his death and resurrection was quite big in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so...
I never watched it.
I was originally going to suggest Coulson, but it's like, no, that does not make sense with what happened in the later things. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is also where they established the curative powers that Kree biology, blood and stuff has on human beings. And do you know why this is?
I don't.
Because the Kree messed with our evolution thousands of years ago.
Dicks.
Yeah, they come in. That's
Dicks,
why
all of them.
That's why we look like... this is never stated, but I assume that's why we look a bit like Kree. Because the Kree fucked with our ancestry. and they created the race of Inhumans, who are humans who are born with the...
Oh, that was that Netflix series. It didn't do very well.
Not Netflix, but yes, it was terrible. That is the
with the Blink dog.
Yeah. The Captain, what do you call him? Captain Pike from Moon. Captain Pike from Discovery was the king of them. But that is...
I'm the king of you.
That is the single worst thing the MCU has ever done. But
the TV stuff doesn't count.
It's all part of the same thing. But in the comics, the Inhumans, they were genetically... Inhumans are just a subgroup of humanity who they're indistinguishable from regular person until they get some exposure to Terrigen, which is a substance.
Did they create the Golden Atom people that are going to create your man?
No. Those people were created for the film, for Guardians of the Galaxy 2. They were just based on what Adam Warlock looks like. Adam Warlock was created in the comics by, human scientists.
Oh.
But...
Like you do.
The Kree did this messing with humans because they wanted, people basically to create foot soldiers with great powers.
And great responsibilities.
No, they're just it was a experiment. They're like, what if we create people, foot soldiers who can do mad shit? It was, well, that was interesting, let's go. And they left.
I liked it. I didn't think that it tore down the patriarchy. Yeah, that's another thing. And I tweeted this, as we were heading into it, that most of the audience seemed to be young white men, which the internet had led me to believe that none were going to go. So apparently it was they all came for the sweet popcorn or the Ben & Jerry's that you can find at the Brunswick Movie Bowl.
I find it deeply funny that, the guys online who are complaining about Captain Marvel, I'm not entirely sure why, but, while Captain Marvel is quite clearly...
Yeah, there wasn't even any gays in it at all, so...
Carol and Marie Rambeau.
Her best friends.
They were totally... If they didn't want to sell this to China, they were totally a couple.
Because I was thinking, is that what they're hinting? But then I'm like, no,
hinting,
they don't have to hint. This isn't the 90s, okay, Xena and Gabrielle. You can just be a couple.
They do kind of, because, they cut out, what do you call it, Valkyrie's bisexuality.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Because they want to sell the films to China.
China's not down with the gays. You'd think that they would because of all their overpopulation. No, I'm not being cheeky. I'm being really serious here. You'd think they'd be like, oh, we need to stop people from having so many children. Oh, but the gays do not all the time.
Anyway, there is definitely subtext with those two. Definitely.
See, I didn't really... Okay, I'm the queen of finding subtext, but I didn't feel that way. You know what it reminded me of, actually? And this is going to be the most obscure reference. I don't even remember the name of the show, but what's her face? Not Joe Smart, no. The girl who played Mary Jo Shively in Designing Women, that actress. She went on to be in a series that it only got one season, and it was set in the South. And her best, they were both cops, or they were both lawyers, or I think they were both lawyers. There was something they were in law enforcement. It was her and this African American woman, and they solved crime, obviously, because who doesn't. But the gimmick of it was that they'd been friends since they were little girls. And it was kind of there'd be, main theme flashbacks throughout the episode, the theme of the episode, but it was because they were kind of in the South, they were on different sides of the civil rights movement,
I got the same sort of thing I got from Rizzoli and Isles.
Yeah.
Which was, they're not written as a couple, but they're totally a couple. They haven't realized it yet.
I don't know, I didn't think that it was maybe there'll be deleted scenes where that was to come across, but I didn't read that so much into it. I thought it might be a possibility, but I was just
if Xena, it got 4 or 5 seasons, there would definitely be, the subtext would be text by the end. If you know
the name of the show that I'm talking about, please comment below, because I can't remember, and it wasn't Joe Smart, because Joe Smart played the blonde character, Charlene, but it was the woman who played Mary Jo Shively on Designing Women, and it was one season, and it was alright, but that's what it reminded me of.
But back to the people who are complaining online, because
back to the controversy.
We're on a thing, and then it sort of tangented.
That's what I'm here for.
I just thought it was really funny that you can make a much bigger argument that the problematic political element of this film is the fact that for little chunks of it, it's basically sucking off the Air Force. They're like, it's like every single shot is supposed to look like it's awesome. Like the Air Force is awesome. It's a bit like Top Gun in that regard. But it's a much smaller part of the film.
In the Navy who said that the other branches of the armed forces referred to it as the chair force. I didn't get that because I went in looking for that because I know that we talked about that. And I don't really feel because the Air Force didn't come off so well out of it, really. She was like, yeah, remember, you don't remember, but back in the day, women weren't allowed to fly combat missions, so we just kind of had to, like, do nothing in the Air Force. And then, like, every interaction they have with, you know, top secret security stuff is adversarial, so I was like, well.
Well, I'm thinking about the way that they were, how did I put it? I'm going to paraphrase Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
This is Quentin Tarantino on Australians. Like, no one films cars like Australians do because they make every shot look like a porno. That was his description of Brian Trencher Smith's like work on Man from Hong Kong.
Australians, do you do this?
That's what Tarantino said. He loves Brian Trencher Smith. He was talking about Man from Hong Kong.
Fair enough.
This film shot planes like it was a porno.
Because planes are awesome.
And that's part of why it. I'm not suggesting the film had some sort of. I'm not saying that the film had some sort of a plot.
Planes were also awesome in Black Panther.
Yeah, but those were not recognizable real world planes. This one had real world recognizable planes.
It had like one of them, and then everything else was experimental. It had a picture on the wall of a pub.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that the Air Force. This was designed to make the Air Force look awesome. I'm saying it's a side effect of the actual film.
Maybe this is secretly trying to bolster support into Space Force.
Like, I'm not sure, but I think the Air Force actually did give assistance for this film. Like, the American military refused assistance for, like, the Avengers. Because they're like, we don't understand. How are the U.S. government subordinate to S.H.I.E.L.D.? This doesn't make sense. And so they refused to help.
Fantastic. There was a cat in it. That was nice.
Yeah.
I liked the cat. Because it looked like... I used to have an orange tabby cat named Kippers. It looked like Kippers.
It's a good cat.
He's a good cat, yeah. I'm trying to think of, like, little things. I usually notice more details, but like I say, it's been a very long day. I'm
a bit sad that Skrulls being genderqueer wasn't a thing in this. In this one, you've got, you do seem to have definite Skrull genders, which is not a thing in the comics. So some Skrull look like women, but they're genderless, and they will shift depending on how they feel.
Yeah, okay, so spoilers. So when you see these Skrull, they've been living in a shielded ship in orbit for at least 6 years, potentially a lot more. And so there's like a lot of human stuff that's up there. They're dressed in human clothing, and I could easily see Marvel, who's had been watching after them until she died, saying, "Look, you guys are gonna have to."
Yeah, spoiler: Marvel is in this.
You guys may have to assume identities on Earth. You need to learn about Earth. You need to learn how humans be, so your cover doesn't get blown and stuff like that. So I could easily see her teaching them.
That makes sense.
So
I'm just thinking that it would be ridiculously expensive, and they would never do this. But I really wish Ben Mendelsohn had played all the Skrulls. For
a second, I had to ask you who he was, because for a second I was like, "That's not Andy Serkis, is it?" Because he had an accent, and Andy Serkis is just they don't let him out of that room, the mocap room. He's like
Marvel did with Black Panther.
He's gonna die in there.
I thought it was wonderful of them casting Ben Mendelsohn because, spoiler, the big twist is the Skrulls aren't the bad guys. So he's the leader of the Skrulls.
Not the baddies.
Because Ben Mendelsohn is like he's the Charles Dance of today. Or he's just the guy who randomly turns up in films to be the villain. In the last few years, he's been in like 3 or 4 films just to be the villain. And most famously in Rogue One. And so you got him here, like he's the villain, and then suddenly, oh no, he's not actually a villain.
Wait, who is he in Rogue One?
The designer of the Krennic, the guy who was in charge of the Death Star project.
I thought that was your man.
No, not Danish. Not the designer. The guy in charge of the project who was
with the collar, walking across the water.
The guy who was strangled by Darth Vader.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And he got. It's nice to see him actually use his real accent.
Mads Mikkelsen, that's who I was thinking about.
Yeah, he was in Doctor Strange.
I have a real problem with facial recognition.
But it was nice that Ben Mendelsohn got to use his actual accent for once. I'm not sure, but most of the Skrulls seem to be Australian, which I thought was pretty funny.
Because, Australia is huge. And if you look at it on Google Earth, like, and you, like, zoom in, there's, like, fucking nothing there. Like, there could be an alien civilization, like, and it's just a part that, like, even, like, the Aborigine folks don't go. And just nobody would know until, like, one day, you know, some 12-year-old is using Google Earth, and I'm like, that's a really cool city in the middle of Australia. Because what do we fucking know? You don't. Post-credits were good.
Yeah.
The last one was kind of triggering. If anyone's had a cat, you'll be quite triggered.
I really think they should have swapped those two around.
And I mean that in, like, the actual meaning of the word. Like a PTSD, like, invoking if you've of an experience if you've had a cat. I'll say no more.
Yeah, and I really think the two post-credits ones should have been moved around, because the first one is...
It's like, whoa, oh, wow, metaplot. Yeah, geez, okay.
That's to do with that's probably a brief bit from Avengers 4. So that really should have been after the end credits, and they should have put the one that Omega was talking about partway through the end credits. And I spent the entirety of the credits trying to remember Courtney Love's last name, because there was a whole song, and I was like, Courtney Cox? No, she was married to... No. Dave Grohl? No, focus. Courtney Cobain.
Yeah, I know, but then she had that big fight with Dave Grohl over, like, a lot of the legal stuff.
Yeah.
It lasted for years and years.
Courtney Love seems to have...
What's she been up to recently?
I'm not sure, but she did get in a lot of fights with people.
Weird.
But anyway,
yeah, so...
Marvel. I want to briefly talk about Marvel.
All right, I wouldn't interrupt you.
Because it is deeply hilarious that we had a trailer for Shazam right before this, because, you know, history lesson for everyone who doesn't know, which is like one of you probably, but Shazam was the original Captain Marvel, made by what became, you know, eventually became DC, Fawcett. It was made basically as inspired by Superman, and there was legal battles, and eventually the character ended up within the same universe as Superman. Anyway, at some point, DC let their trademark lapse. And Marvel was already Marvel Comics at this point. So they're like, holy fuck, let's create a character called Captain Marvel. And that was Mar-Vell, who was a man in the comics, who was a Kree warrior who came to Earth and was like, I'm going to be all horrible and shit. Oh no, humans are awesome, I'm going to protect them.
This is me fighting the power.
And so, you know, at some point, he started out blue, he became white. I'm not sure why that happened. But he
assimilated.
You had a very sort of groundbreaking graphic novel made in the late 70s called The Death of Captain Marvel, which was about how Captain Marvel had got cancer from a fight with a supervillain and spent the entire story trying to work out, you know, ways to get cured, like removing part of, you know, basically his band. There's these things on his wrists which were the source of his power, which were like melded into his body, and it was stopping the things from curing him. It was also keeping him alive, but it was making the cancer get worse, and it was eventually going to kill him. So you had the really horrible bit where he had both of his hands amputated, to remove them and all. Didn't save him. He died. Thanos was dead at this point. He was Thanos' arch nemesis, but Thanos came to him in a vision, bringing Lady Death, who Thanos was in love with. Death, took him away and stuff like that. It was very, very, for late 70s comics, this is like the era of silly Batman, sort of silver age stuff. Yeah, this was one of the bits this was one of the first bits of comic books becoming a full adult medium. And then, ever since then, Marvel has been clever enough to never let that trademark go. But as a result, every few years they have to have a Captain Marvel comic. And that's why there's been a fuckload of Captain Marvels, including the second Captain Marvel, I think she was the second, who is the daughter of the Black Lady pilot, Monica Rambeau. She was leader of the Avengers in the 80s, and then she's a little girl in this one. But then Captain Carol Danvers, who was originally Miss Marvel to the original Captain Marvel, not the Fawcett DC one, the Mar-Vell, the alien Kree. She became Captain Marvel like 12 years ago, and she's the current one. That's why she got the film. Right. Yeah, she was Miss Marvel or Marvel Girl. I can't remember. No, Marvel Girl was Jean Grey. Miss Marvel and Binary and Captain Marvel. She was also the source of Rogue getting her flight powers in the X-Men animated series. I liked that we didn't see a lot of her for okay, and then one trailer where they show her in various ages getting up, to fight again. It was a bit of Captain America's, I could do this all day. Yeah, but we didn't see over much of her background.
the wee girl had kept all her stuff, and so he's like pulling out pictures. Oh, here's you when you were little. You didn't get on with your parents, so my mom said we just kind of became like your family, and that's never expanded on. Like, there's one scene where you see the guy that you realize, okay, later, like, oh, that was her dad, like, yelling at her, but it's so quick. Like, I really liked that. Yeah. That you know about as much about
her as she does.
Yeah, and I really liked that. That was kind of cool.
I'm not as up on the comics as I should be, but the amnesia, it was nice that they smuggled that into the film in that way, because, you know, amnesia was a big part of Carol Danvers, at least in like in the 80s.
See, I think that I liked this a lot better than Wonder Woman.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like
Wonder Woman became a hot mess at the end.
The
third act.
But I think that Wonder Woman meant so much more to people because she was such an iconic character. And I'd be really interested to see, you know, if Captain Marvel has that same kind of effect with audiences. Like, I really wanted, I think I said this in our vlog, I really wanted to have the kind of experience that a lot of my friends had with Wonder Woman. I know people, you know, who cried. It was just that salient, it was that meaningful to them, and I just didn't take that from it. Like, I really enjoyed this. I like Brie Larson as the character, and I was like, oh, this is really great, but I didn't connect because, and I was thinking about this psychologist that I am, you know, because I was that little kid who was always being knocked down and always being told, no, you're just some girl, no, you can't. But the difference is I never got back up. I just said, okay. But then I thought to myself, I wouldn't have been the kind of child that would be the way that Carol Danvers was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have been the kind of child who would have become an Air Force pilot or a genetically modified Kree warrior or something. But I can see a lot of people really connecting with this character, and I really like that. You know?
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be good.
Personality-wise, the closest one that I can think of, you know, for an existing MCU character is Doctor Strange, in that she's sort of low-level irritated the whole time and snarky, but deadpan about it. Not like, you know, quippy and like, you know, I know I'm being funny Tony Stark, but more like, you know, the deadpan. But she's funnier than Strange is.
Sense of humor. I really can't wait for the next Doctor Strange movie. It really spoke to me as a researcher, which is a strange thing to say. Anything that... Oh, you know what? So my brother-in-law said that he didn't think that she should be added to the MCU because he said she's so powerful. Where do you go from there? And him and his wife had to go home and sleep, so they're not.
That's Teddy, by the way. My argument against that would be, A, she doesn't have to be near Earth. B, there's way bigger fish than her out there in the Marvel Universe. Yeah, I mean, Galactus creates heralds who are more powerful than Captain Marvel.
Wow.
You know, like the Silver Surfer could take Captain Marvel in a fight. At least the comic Silver Surfer. In the film, you know, might take a power reduction.
There's fan force, dude.
They're planning that Marvel's announced they're doing I believe it's Eternals or Externals. I can't remember because I think there's both groups out there, you know, who are mega powerful guys. But I'm gonna make a little prediction. If the Fox Marvel merger, you know, Fox Disney merger thing happens before Avengers 4 happens, what we're going to see is like a little shot, like, you know, dark room, like they fade slowly to an office, voice from off screen saying, you're going to see, like, you know, Fury or Stark or someone like in the office. You hear a voice happening from off screen saying, yes, sir, Professor Xavier's here to talk to you about the mutant problem. And then we're just going to see, like, you know, the back of a bald head sort of come into shot, and that will be the last one. This will be the first, something along these lines will be the first post-credit sequence after...
That'd be pretty cool.
After the merger is complete. Because it's just going to be like, we've got the fucking X-Men. They're not even going to have to do anything with it after that. Just, they'll have it.
A thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. It was good. You know it'll be good. I mean, Well, here's what I want to know. You know what? No fucking wonder Thanos was able to win so easily. And I've been thinking about this through all of the Marvel movies. There's just Infinity Stones just, like, lying around, and everyone just thinks, like, this is not some big problem. You know, like, and at the end where, like, you know, Wong says to Doctor Strange, well, you know, you have been carting a fucking Infinity Stone around your neck for the entirety of it. Like, stop fucking Infinity. They're everywhere. And people just leave them lying around, like, sure, that'll be grand.
Just everywhere. The Soul Stone was on Vormir, although clearly, originally, it was going to be at Heimdall's. Then you've got the Tesseract was on Earth. You got the Time Stone.
The Tesseract is like one of those big
the Space Stone.
No, but it's like one of those big red rubber balls from gym class that you play hot potato with. Oh, you take the Tesseract. I don't have the Tesseract.
Well, to be fair, the Camartage people were keeping the other one secret, so they're like, that's the only one they had. You've got the ether is like holed up in the mountain until it was sent to the Collector. You got the power one was on the Morag, the planet, and then it was given to the Nova Corps. So it's like they're not everywhere.
I just feel like there is. We're coming up on 30 minutes, so the firework is going to cut. We better cut to the chase. But you'll like it if you're into it. You already know you will. If you're already angry about girls, I have no further information for you. But yeah, go see it. You'll enjoy it if you're into that. And quite frankly, who isn't these days?
I'm just going to say that I think Odin at his prime could take Captain Marvel out.
Probably.
Because, he had the Odin Force.
That means his penis.
No, that means he's got the power of Asgard. This is why Thor was able to survive.
You ruined it! It was going to be a really great joke and you ruined it.
Oh, no.
It's always funny when you say penis.
But this is why Thor survived so much stuff in Avengers 3. Because he now wields the Odin Force. It's never stated, but that's my theory.
So remember, kids, don't be a Skrull. Stay in school.
It's a bit racist.
No, it's a bit 90s. Just say no to Skrull.